3:47 in the morning. You are replaying that conversation again. He said it never happened. You remember it did. You heard the tone. You saw the gesture. You remember the exact word. He told you that you imagined it, that you are too sensitive, that your memory is strange. And you lie there in the dark and wonder if he is right. 8 scientists across 8 decades have already mapped exactly what is happening inside your head at this moment. The film called it Gaslight in 1944. Reik heard the silence beneath it in 1948. Robin Stern named the pattern at Yale in 2007. Loftus proved the mechanism in 1995. Bancroft named the root in 2002. Abramson relaunched it academically at Princeton in 2024. 10 signs. The third one you're missing right now. 60 seconds for each architect. Then all 10 in sequence. Stay to the end. Robin Stern, Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, 2007. Before her, clinicians had no word for it. The cinema had given us the term. Stern gave us the scaffold. She published a book called The Gaslight Effect. Inside it, 10 signs. 1. You constantly second-guess yourself. 2. You ask a dozen times a day if you're too sensitive. 3. You feel confused, sometimes crazy, in the relationship. 4. You have trouble making simple decisions. 5. You make excuses for your partner to friends and family. Stern saw the mechanism. The gaslighter must be right in order to preserve his own sense of self. The gaslightee allows him to define her reality because she idealizes him and seeks his approval. It is not about anger. It is about power. Before 2007, this was not in the textbooks. After it, every protocol referenced her work. Patricia Evans, California, 1992. She founded a hotline from her own kitchen. Over 15 years, more than 30,000 women would call her. Evans did one thing. She wrote down what they said. In her book, The Verbally Abusive Relationship, the term covert verbal abuse appeared for the first time. Not yelling, not name-calling, defining you to yourself, telling you what you are, what you think, what your motives are. Stern's 6 sign came out of these calls. 6. You make excuses for your partner's behavior to friends and family. 7. Before he comes home from work, you run a checklist in your head to anticipate anything you might have done wrong that day. Evans made visible what the neighbors did not hear. Sarcasm, cold withholding, manipulative agreement, withdrawn the next morning. Before 1992, it was called a difficult personality. After her book, it was called verbal abuse. Theodor Reik, Vienna, then New York. 1948. He published a book titled Listening with the Third Ear. 37 years of practice. One thesis. The most important thing in the consulting room is what is not said. The analyst does not hear words. He hears what is being avoided. Manipulation always leaves a shadow, a pause, an omission, a turn. Reik called it the unconscious leak. He taught a generation of clinicians not to rush to interpretation. Listen first with the whole body. Stern's 8 sign descends from this idea. 8. You realize you buy your own clothes thinking about what your partner would like, not what you would. That is not love. That is leak. Reik understood it first. The gaslighter does not insert the thought. He creates the pause into which you place it yourself. He does not lie. He stays silent in the exact way that lets you hear the answer he wants. Florence Rush, New York, 1980. She walked up to a feminist conference podium. She read a paper. She published a book, The Best Kept Secret. Rush said something psychiatry did not want to hear. Psychiatry itself was the original gaslighter. 70 years of Freudian doctrine had blamed children for the things adults had done to them. Rush named the pattern, the Freudian cover-up, structural denial, institutional gaslighting. It is bigger than one home. It works in hospitals, in courtrooms, in textbooks. Stern's 9th sign grew out of this. 9. You start to enjoy the constant criticism, thinking what does not kill me will make me stronger. Rush exposed the root. When a system tells you for 30 years that your experience is not real, you learn to call your pain growth. Before 1980, this was the norm. After her, it began to break. Elizabeth Loftus, University of California, Irvine, 1995. The Lost in the Mall Experiment. If you watched our video on false memory, Loftus proved there that memories can be implanted. Here we show the reverse. They can be erased and overwritten with a single denial. 25% of her subjects invented a complete childhood memory of an event that never happened. The gaslighter exploits the same mechanism. He says, this did not happen. Memory is plastic. It resaves itself every time it is accessed. Each denial is a small edit to the trace. After a year, the trace is rewritten. Stern's 10th sign comes from here. 10. You no longer trust your own perceptions. Loftus did not invent manipulation. She showed why it works. The hippocampus does not distinguish between an event and a leading question. It saves both. Robert Cialdini, Arizona State University, 1984. He spent 3 years undercover, selling used cars, raising charity money, studying con artists from the inside. Then he wrote a book called Influence. Inside it, 6 levers: reciprocity, commitment, social proof, authority, liking, scarcity. By accident, Cialdini wrote the Gaslighter's Instruction Manual. The manipulator pulls all 6 at once. First, he gives you something. That is reciprocity. Then you agree to a small thing. Commitment will hold you to the bigger one. He surrounds you with people who believe him. That is social proof. He looks like an authority. He becomes someone you like. He makes himself scarce. 6 levers in parallel. That is the gaslighter's signature. Not one manipulation, a whole construction. Cialdini did not mean to write a manual, but that is what he wrote. Lundy Bancroft, Boston, 2002. He spent 15 years running counseling groups for abusers. The program was called Emerge, the first of its kind in the United States. Thousands of men passed through his office. In his book, Why Does He Do That?, Bancroft made a declaration. It is not anger. It is not loss of control. It is not alcohol. It is not stress. It is a belief that he has the right. Roots, ownership. Trunk, entitlement. Branches, control. He is not losing control. He is exerting it. The gaslighter does not snap on his way home. He knows precisely on which people this works and on which it does not. Bancroft mapped 10 archetypes of abusive men. All of them share one core. You owe him. You owe him for staying, for forgiving, for loving him at all. It is not a relationship. It is an accounting system where the balance is always against you. Kate Abramson, Indiana University, 2024. Princeton University Press. The book is called On Gaslighting, the newest academic work on the subject. Abramson is a philosopher, not a clinician. She asks a different question. What exactly makes this so uniquely wrong? Her answer, a dual goal. The gaslighter does not just want you to think you're crazy. He wants you to actually become it. It is not a perception error. It is active work. Abramson insists this is an interpersonal act, not a structure, not a general system. One person doing it to another, and it is not always conscious. The gaslighter often does not know what he is doing, but his behavior moves consistently toward one end, that you lose access to your own grasp of reality. When you lose that access, that is not a symptom. It is the result of his work. 10 signs. Count with me. 1. You constantly second-guess yourself. 2. You ask if you are too sensitive. 3. You feel confused, sometimes crazy, in the relationship. 4. You have trouble making simple decisions. 5. You make excuses for your partner to others. 6. You run a checklist before he comes home. 7. You buy your own clothes thinking about his taste. 8. You hide the truth of your relationship from friends. 9. You have started to enjoy criticism. 10. You no longer trust your own perceptions. If you mark 3, that is a signal. If you mark 6, that is confirmation. If you have not yet seen our episode on false memory, watch it. Loftus is its center, and the bridge between these two videos is the same hippocampus, written and unwritten. It is 347. Which of the 10 is yours?